as was the custom. So the horse's spirit would be ready to carry Chief Joseph's spirit to its spirit home. The horse would be left standing, held up by the log supports under its body. All these things were so hard for Soun to understand. He would ponder them for many days and years to come. Soon after the death of Chief Tuakakis, whom the white man called Chief Joseph, a new chief took over the leadership of the Wallowa Nez Perce band. The new chief was Soun's uncle and the son of Tuakakis. The white man would call the new chief Young Chief Joseph. Soun's father, Olacott, would be a great help to his brother, the new Chief Joseph. The white settlers were coming in large numbers every year. They took Nez Perce land in the Wallowa Valley whenever and wherever they wanted it. Old Chief Joseph died on October 5th, 1871, and already one white settler had moved in, fenced off a large piece of land, and built a cabin and other buildings. Years before, Olacott and Soun's uncle had helped put painted poles in the ground. These poles marked the land belonging to the Nez Perce people. Soon the whites would come and knock down the poles and begin taking the land. 1 month after old Chief Joseph's death, a great feast was given by the chief's family. Friends came from miles away. Dried fish, fresh elk and moose, biscuits, berries, fruits, and nuts made a delicious meal for all. Because it was November 5th, the feast was held in the afternoon. The weather was beautiful. Everyone talked about past adventures and the accomplishments of Chief Tuakakis. After the feast, young Chief Joseph rose to speak. Soun watched and listened as his uncle spoke to the crowd. The new chief talked about the goodness of his father, Tuakakis. He told the people about the old chief's last words. The night of his death, my father sent for me. I took his hand in mine. I saw that he was dying. He said, "My son, my body is returning to Mother Earth, and my spirit is going very soon to see the great spirit chief. When I am gone, think of our country. You are chief of these people. They look to you to guide them. Always remember that your father never sold this land. You must stop up your ears whenever you are asked to sign a treaty selling your home. A few years more, and the white men will be all around you. They have their eyes on this land. My son, never forget my dying words. This land holds your father's body. Never sell the bones of your father and mother." I pressed my father's hand and told him I would protect his grave with my life. My father smiled and passed away to the spirit land. My brothers and sisters, I promise you, I will never sell this valley. I will keep the promise I made to my father. I also promise to help you, my people. I will love the children and live in peace with all men. Now my family has gifts for all of you. My father wished that each of you have something from his belongings as a gift of love from him. Soun watched as his father and mother, his uncle, and his aunts passed out many fine gifts to all their friends and relatives. These gifts were things owned by the great Chief Tuakakis. It was a happy time with everyone expressing their thanks and wishing the family of young Chief Joseph good health and long life. As Soun stood next to his stepsister Sarah, he thought about the exciting gift his grandfather had given him before his death. The gift would come in June, when a beautiful mare would give birth to a foal. The foal would be Soun's very own, to raise, to train, and ride proudly. With sign language, Soun told Sarah that he was thinking about the day when he would see his gift from their grandfather. "Soun, you will have a fine horse. Grandfather will look down from his spirit home and smile on the day your foal is born," said Sarah. With fast-moving hands, Soun answered, "I will remember Grandfather every day. I will grow to be a good and brave man like him. I hope to make his spirit happy by remembering his words and his deeds. I will ride my horse with great happiness." These were big thoughts for young children, but Indian children had to grow up quickly. At age 3, Nez Perce boys and girls learned to help gather food. Grandmothers taught the little ones how to pick berries, gather seeds and nuts, and dig roots. Soun and Sarah had already become good workers for their families. They had learned many important lessons that would help them live useful lives. All the gifts had been given, and most of the people were getting ready for the ceremonial dance. Soun and Sarah looked up to see the new Chief Joseph coming toward them. The chief had a loving smile on his face. "My children, you have not been forgotten. Soun, your grandfather, loved you with all of his heart. In June you will receive your own horse, a gift from him. Take this bridle, which your grandfather used as he rode many miles through this land that he loved. Use it as you also ride straight in the saddle on your own horse. Remember the hands of him who held his bridle before you. Those hands did much to care for me, for your father, for you, and for all your people. Your hands can do great things also." As the chief spoke, Soun felt a shiver go through his whole body. He felt as though he could not stand still. He wanted to begin that very moment to work with his people. He wanted to prove that he had learned the great lessons of his grandfather. Soun hardly heard the words the chief spoke as he gave his daughter a beautiful beaded bag that had belonged to her grandfather. As a young Chief Joseph, and I just want you to see the picture there. As a young Chief Joseph turned and brought small gifts to the other grandchildren, Soun and Sarah rushed off with their treasures. They would both remember this day for the rest of their lives. They would remember the words spoken. They would prize their gifts most of all. They would remember their loving grandfather.